Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. Today we are comfy and cozy during a rainstorm, and so I am in my cozy PJs, bundled up, and thought that I would film my new What I've Been Watching video, which is everything I've watched since the last video I did. So, I think this list has quite a few because I watched a lot of movies in October. So we will try to get through it. As always, this will be spoiler free, so you can take it as kind of a suggestion list if you like, and I won't include spoilers for obvious reasons. So get nice and comfy and cozy yourself. And I have my phone with my list of all the things I've watched. Okay, so the first up is Game of Thrones from 2011 and on. 2011 through 2019. It is TVMA dark fantasy, if you don't know. 9 noble families fight for control over the lands of Westeros, while an ancient enemy returns after being dormant for millennia. So I finally rewatched and finished Game of Thrones. I had started it years ago, and I just stopped watching and never finished it. So I finally sat down to watch it all and conclude the series, and I really got into the fandom. It was an easy watch to get through. I really got into it, and for the show as a whole, there were of course some storylines that I really liked, some I wasn't a fan of. These type of shows, you win some, you lose some, and especially when it's a longer show. So overall I did enjoy it. I was happy that towards the end, I feel like Game of Thrones has like a reputation for killing off characters, and I was happy to see that some of my favorites survived. So I definitely could see myself watching Game of Thrones again. It's a fandom that I do enjoy. And going along with that, I started House of Dragon, which is from 2022 on TVMA Dark Fantasy. An internal succession war with House Targaryen at the height of its power 172 years before the birth of Daenerys Targaryen. This is the prequel show, in case you're not familiar. So it basically has to do with Khaleesi's ancestors, if you will. Season 1 was like very happy watching and like immediately got me into the show. I was very interested in it, and I liked really specific characters and whatnot. Season 2 for me was very slow, felt like a bit of a filler of a season, like it was all prep for what is potentially coming, I guess, in future seasons. I still enjoyed the characters, but again, a little slow. I don't like seeing CGI dragons get injured, even if they're not real. I don't like that at all. And Daemon Targaryen, who I believe is a fan favorite, I don't really care for him, but I believe he's a fan favorite, really didn't do much in season 2. Like, what was he doing the whole time? So I did enjoy it, but not as good as first season. I'm curious to see what they will do with the next seasons. Then I watched the Super Mario Brothers movie from 2023, rated PG, family adventure. A plumber named Mario travels through an underground labyrinth with his brother Luigi, trying to save a captured princess. This was a super cute movie, a fun animation. I think it was fun for new Mario fans or like existing Super Mario fans. I've liked Mario and played Mario games for years, and I thought it was a really fun and cute movie, and there was nice little references for like the existing fans. I do really like the little blue depressed star thing that's in that movie, but it was a very cute film. I think they're making a sequel. Then I watched It Follows from 2014, rated R. It is a horror mystery. A young woman is followed by an unknown supernatural force after a sexual encounter. So this movie very much feels like a vintage horror movie. I don't know why that is, but it just gave me like vintage horror vibes. And there is a lot of build-up, suspense, creepiness, especially with the score. And it kind of makes you anxious, I guess, for what's going to happen. However, overall, I didn't like this movie. I feel like there was lots of build-up in this movie for kind of a bit of an annoying ending. Some may disagree. The ending is kind of open-ended to where you can interpret it different ways. I just wasn't really a fan of it. I didn't gravitate towards some of the characters. They were just kind of meh. So like overall, like I wouldn't really watch this movie again. There was also like aspects of like using like human devices against like a supernatural entity, if you will, which just didn't make sense to me. But I see online that a lot of people enjoyed this movie. I just didn't, and so I would pass on it. Then I watched Slumber Party Massacre from 1982, rated R. It's a horror comedy. A female high school student's slumber party turns into a bloodbath as newly escaped psychotic serial killer wielding a power drill prowls her neighborhood. This is the definition of an 80s slasher horror movie. Teenagers, random nudity, slasher killer going around. It's truly like the definition of an 80s horror movie. It almost feels like it would be one of the movies that the characters would be watching in a more modern horror movie. Like, because it has just that full-on 80s horror vibe. But not to say it's bad. It's not like a bad horror movie. There are definitely some like good horror shots in this movie. And it's always funny in any scary movie. Like people's choices, character choices, and there's some funny ones in this one. Like, there's a serial killer out there, we should definitely open a window. No, but overall, it's not bad. Yeah, if you're looking for like an 80s slasher, you would probably like this. There's also like a really unique hiding place in this movie, which I thought was smart. And then, to switch genres, I watched The Idea of You from 2024, rated R, romance comedy. A 40-year-old single mom begins an unexpected romance with a 24-year-old, the lead singer of August Moon, the hottest boy band on the planet. So I stopped and started this movie several times. I really don't think it was for me, but I'm always quite determined to finish movies even if I'm not liking them. And this was definitely one of those movies. Now, I love Anne Hathaway, but I just didn't care for this film. This was a Harry Styles fan fiction that got turned into a movie, so I understand the plot and everything. I don't fully buy Anne Hathaway as a boring single mom. I mean, she's good in the movie, but I just don't really like... I don't know if we were trying to like say she was like the old frumpy mom type of thing because it's Anne Hathaway, so that's obviously incorrect. The movie was kind of slow and awkward for me, and a lot of the characters are really frustrating or, in my take, annoying, so that's probably why I didn't care for it and had to stop and start it several times. And it was a little bit of a depressing film too. I don't know. It wasn't for me, but I did finish it. I also had mixed feelings on the ending, so maybe it just wasn't my type of film, clearly. Next up is The House of Sorority Row from 1982, rated R, horror mystery. After seemingly innocent prank goes horribly wrong, a group of sorority sisters are stalked and murdered one by one in their sorority house while throwing a party to celebrate their graduation. I think this is a highly underrated 80s horror film. I had known that Sorority Row, which came out like in the 2000s I think, was kind of a remake, but I'd never seen the original, which is this one from 82. I think that this had really good, decent acting. The storyline was creepy and very entertaining to what was going to be happening in this. There is, of course, going to be some questionable, like, effects for the time, like 80s horror effects, if you will. But overall, there were some really good, like, scenes and sequences in this movie that were really creepy and good for a horror film. There was actually, like, a part towards the end of this movie that, like, I was like, fuck type of situation. But yeah, I would definitely watch this movie again. I thought it was a really good 80s horror. Next, I watched The Hunt from 2020, rated R. Dark comedy horror. 12 strangers wake up in a clearing. They don't know where they are or how they got there. They don't know they've been chosen for a very specific purpose. The Hunt. This movie was definitely like dark comedy because it makes fun of like multiple political parties, if you will. Like it pokes fun at everyone in this world that we live in, and it was a very interesting take. The main character is really entertaining. She's really good. So yeah, I did enjoy this movie. It was different than what I've seen before, and different plot twists and whatnot. Definitely dark comedy though. Next up, I watched Lisa Frankenstein from this year, 2024, PG-13 comedy romance horror. A coming-of-age love story about a teenager and her crush who happens to be a corpse. After a set of horrific circumstances bring him back to life, the two embark on a journey to find love, happiness, and a few missing body parts. This was like the perfect combination of comedy, dark horror romance film with 80s vibes thrown in. Very entertaining movie. Overall, the characters are really fun in this, and it's just like a kind of a fun, silly movie because you have like those like corpse horror vibes in it, but then like there's the 80s comedy and situations in it as well. So I definitely would watch this one again. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire from 2024, PG-13 supernatural fantasy comedy. When the discovery of ancient artifacts unleash an evil force, Ghostbusters new and old must join forces to protect their home and save the world from a second ice age. This is a decent Ghostbusters movie. I like the new team, if you will, that they started with, is basically Egon's grandkids. I like them and the new characters they've introduced with the mix of our favorite old Ghostbusters characters, so I enjoyed this movie. And the combination of both casts, if you will. I mean, I just love Ghostbusters in general, so but I did really like this and kind of like the ancient relic kind of aspect and the history things that they added into this one, so I would watch again. I like everything Ghostbusters. Next up, I started Agatha All Along, of course, from this year, TV-14 dark fantasy adventure. A spellbound Agatha Harkness regains freedom thanks to Teen's help. Intrigued by his plea, she embarks on the Witch's Road, trials to reclaim her power and discover the teen's motives. I love this show. I love this show so much. I mean, I love anything witchy, and then you got Agatha back, which I absolutely adored from WandaVision. Like, give me anything Catherine Hahn, pretty much. I love her. But I love this show so much. I love the whole cast, all of the different witches, and the comedy, and the fantasy, and, you know, the Marvel bits thrown in. It was perfect show for me, really. And I'm glad it's getting the hype that it deserved because it was just such an entertaining show. I will definitely be watching that again. And then we move into some more horror films for spooky season. I was very much going to complete my rewatch, or watching for the first time, some of these, the Chucky movies. So I had watched last year Child's Play. So this year I did Child's Play 2, 1990, rated R, slasher horror. While Andy's mother is admitted to a psychiatric hospital, the young boy is placed in foster care, and Chucky is determined to claim Andy's soul is not far behind. This was a good sequel, decent sequel, but goddamn, everyone is so mean to this poor child. Poor Andy has gone through a very traumatic experience, and I swear everybody in this movie is very mean to him. Like, don't be foster parents if you're gonna be mean to the child. But it's a good creepy movie. There's like a crazy creepy death at a doll factory that's like a bad creepy death. I still appreciate how creepy Chucky is, the doll, even for like the age. This one was 90. Even for like a movie that's like not brand new, the doll is still creepy. Then I watched Child's Play 3 from 91, rated R, slasher horror. Chucky returns for revenge against Andy, the young boy who defeated him, and now a teenager living in a military academy. So this one I still like seeing, like, the Andy character, even though like we aged him. Obviously he's a teenager now. It was a military school aspect, which was okay. It wasn't like fantastic in my opinion for the storyline. So overall I would say that this third movie was like, it was okay. It was not amazing, but it wasn't horrible or anything like that. Then it goes to Bride of Chucky from 98, rated R, slasher horror. Chucky the doll, possessed by a serial killer, discovers the perfect mate to kill and revive into the body of another doll. So this one was a rewatch. I've seen Bride of Chucky so many times actually, and I wanted to rewatch it this year because I was doing my Tiffany cosplay. So this is a rewatch, but I'm so glad I did. This one is definitely got more like comedy in it, I think, and the add-on of Tiffany is fantastic. I love her so much. It's probably my favorite movie of the Child's Play series, so had to rewatch it. Then we go to Seed of Chucky from 2004, rated R, slasher horror. Chucky and Tiffany are resurrected by their innocent, gender-confused child, Glenn and Glenda, and hit Hollywood, where a movie depicting the killer doll's murder spree is underway. This one was not my favorite. It was kind of a weird storyline, this one. But I love Jennifer Tilly, and she actually, obviously she plays Tiffany, but she like plays Jennifer Tilly in this too, like herself. And she's just like gorgeous and perfect, so that was great in this movie. There was definitely a big gore shift in this film compared to the other ones. Obviously it's like slasher and there's gonna be death and stuff, but I feel like they amped it up in this movie, which was interesting. The next movie after that is Curse of Chucky from 2013, rated R, slasher horror. After her mother's mysterious death, Nika begins to suspect that Chucky may be the key to the recent bloodshed and chaos. Chucky looks really weird in this movie. I just talked about how I really like how the doll looks in the previous films and how it's creepy. He looks weird in this movie. I don't know what they did, but he just looks weird. This movie definitely has an interesting backstory. I enjoyed the main character of Nika, which is funny. I watched the movie and I was like, I really like her, and then come to find out I didn't realize that she is the real life daughter of Chucky. The man that plays Chucky, that does Chucky's voice, like that's his real life daughter, so good on her. She's great. Note on this one, there is an after credit scene in this movie and it does not show on all streaming services, so if there's not there when you watch it, like look it up on YouTube or something, because it's a good after credit scene. Then the next movie is Colt of Chucky from 2017, R slasher horror. Chucky returns to terrorize his human victim, Nika. Meanwhile, the killer doll has some scores to settle with his old enemies with the help of his former wife. I always like seeing old characters back, especially when it's been like, you know, from the 80s to 2017 this movie came out. So I like the characters have grown. They bring back the same actors, so I really like to see that as well. But this movie was strange. It was very weird. It was a weird one. It feels very different from the other Chucky films. So it's not my favorite. While I enjoy seeing some of the past characters and Nika being kind of like at the forefront, it's a weird movie. This one also has an after credit scene that is not on all streaming services. I don't know why they do that. So if you watch it and there's not an after credit scene, YouTube it. And then we jump to The Chucky Show, which I've only seen the first season of that. It started in 2021, TVMA. Into chaos as a series of horrifying murders begin to expose the town's hypocrisies and secrets. So like I said, I've only seen season 1, but I really enjoyed it. I like the characters and the connections to the past movies. I need to finish the rest of the seasons. I think it's been canceled now, but I need to finish it because I really did enjoy it, like all of the Chucky characters. Next up we have Cabin in the Woods from 2011, rated R, conspiracy thriller. A group of kids go to a remote cabin in the woods. I really enjoyed this movie, probably because it was something new and very interesting. Oftentimes with horror movies we can get like the same type of stories over and over, but this one was very interesting to me. I liked the characters, it was entertaining. I would definitely recommend this one. I also really liked that one of the characters was like unexpectedly smart, and it was fantastic. Happy Death Day from 2017, PG-13 slasher horror. A college student must relive the day of her murder over and over again in a loop that will end only when she discovers her killer's identity. Kind of corny, but kind of the point of this type of movie, I suppose. It's not my favorite film. It kind of gets better as you watch it, I guess. The character at the beginning is definitely not likable, so you're not really like caring about her, but she does get better as you watch. Overall it was a decent like horror movie twist, kind of like a horror movie version of Groundhog Day, so that was an interesting watch. And then I watched the sequel, which is Happy Death Day to You from 2019, PG-13 slasher horror. Tree Gilbin discovers that dying over and over was surprisingly easier than the dangers that lie ahead. I didn't care for this one as much. The first one is definitely a better movie. The second half of the movie was better. The first half was hard to get through, in my opinion. It's just like, okay, not my favorite. I think they're making a third one, so it's going to be like a trilogy, and maybe I'll see it eventually, but I don't know. Children of the Corn from 1984. No, I had not seen this movie. Rated R, horror. A young couple is trapped in a remote town where a dangerous religious cult of children believes that everyone over the age of 18 must be killed. I did not know anything about this movie going in. I didn't even know that it was a Stephen King story until the credits rolled. So, but it was, in fact, a creepy movie. Children are creepy. It was a decent, creepy flick. I have not watched the remake. I only watched this 84 version. I will say, minor spoiler warning for those that care. I care about these things. The dog dies. Sleepaway Camp from 1983, rated R, slasher horror. Bunks and showers are a mad stabber's beat at a summer camp strictly for teens. This movie was a trip. Like, kind of crazy. And you start in this movie, this is like a bunch of asshole characters, because like not even 10 minutes in, like some of the adult characters at this camp are like making disgusting comments about children, making themselves sound like pedophiles. It's like, this is a children's camp? What are you talking about? And so you're not gonna really make me feel bad for those people getting killed. Like, I'm not gonna be mad at the serial killer when you're making these nasty comments. You know what I mean? But yeah, this movie was an absolute trip. The ending is crazy and bizarre. I'm glad I had never been spoiled on this ending, because I think it would have been like a letdown, right? But I didn't know anything about this movie going in, except for it kind of has like a cult following, I think. Beetlejuice from 2024, PG-13 dark comedy. After a family tragedy, 3 generations of Dietz family return home to Winter River. Still haunted by Beetlejuice, Lydia's life is turned upside down with her teenage daughter, Astrid, accidentally opens the portal to the afterlife. I think that they did a really good job with this sequel. It still had the Beetlejuice vibes, which I think a lot of practical effects made that so like Tim Burton did good with that, with using the same type of effects that we saw in the first Beetlejuice film, so it wasn't like overly CGI and whatnot. The characters that they brought back I was really happy to see again, and even like mixed in with like the new characters like Astrid. Jenna Ortega was really good in this. I thought she fit in with the cast greatly. I was anticipating this movie. I'm a huge Beetlejuice fan, and I did enjoy what they did with it. I will say that part of this movie made me cry and it had some good twists in it. Night Swim from 2024, PG-13 supernatural horror. A family moves into a new home unaware that a dark secret from the house past will unleash a malevolent force in the backyard pool. Mild spoiler because it matters to me. The cat dies. I hate these things in horror movies. I had heard that this movie was really bad, but I was like, I want to watch it anyway because it sounds interesting, and I thought it was decent. Any water stuff is going to be creepy to me. This was definitely creepy. I love like little backstories too, and it kind of like dives in a little bit to the backstories of the water and whatnot. But overall, I thought this was a good, creepy, spooky movie that makes me not want to swim in pools or anything. Maxine from 2024, rated R slasher horror. In 1980s Hollywood, young adult film star and aspiring actress Maxine Minks finally gets her big break. But as mysterious killer stalks the starlets of Hollywood, a trail of blood threatens to reveal her sinister past. I wanted to like this movie. I did. I wanted to like it because of the 80s vibes, and I like the 2 previous movies, but this movie was a bit of a letdown for me. I'm glad I waited to watch it at home. I was thinking about going to the theater, but I'm pretty picky about what movies I see in theaters these days, and I just was let down by this movie. It was just a bit lackluster for me. The ending was so unbelievably predictable. There was real no mystery in this movie to me, and I also feel like they kind of like shoved as many celebrities as they could into this film. Like everyone just had like these tiny little parts, but there were so many different celebrity names, you know. I just didn't like it. X will still be my favorite of the trilogy, and then Pearl is better than this one too, in my opinion. Drag Me to Hell from 2009, PG-13 supernatural horror. A loan officer who evicts an old woman from her home finds herself the recipient of a supernatural curse. Desperate, she turns to a seer to try and save her soul, while evil forces work to push her to a breaking point. So many jump scares in this movie. So many jump scares, and I get it. Some of them got me. Like, I jumped because there's so many jump scares in this. But sometimes it's like enough is enough. It's like one right after the other, like loud sounds to make you jump. And I feel like the story was a little bit lacking, so they kept putting in those loud jump scares. I almost didn't finish this movie. But like I said, I try to finish movies even if I'm not liking them, just to get like the full view of the film. But it did take me like days to finish it. I kept starting and stopping it. There were some parts that were so gross to me that had me gagging a bit. Just not my type of horror. Ugh, just thinking about it makes me nauseous. So I would not watch this again. I mean, like, it had like an interesting premise, but just the oversaturation of jump scares every 2 seconds and the nasty parts just weren't for me. So I didn't like this movie. Immaculate, 2024, rated R horror. A woman of devout faith is warmly welcomed to the picture-perfect Italian countryside, where she is offered a new role at a illustrious convent, but it becomes clear that to her the new home harbors dark and horrifying secrets. This movie was just okay to me. A little boring. I feel like there was a couple like churchy horror movies that came out this year, but this is the only one that I've seen. Going into this movie, I didn't think about logically what this movie was about, and looking back, I guess it would be kind of obvious what this movie could potentially be about, but I didn't know anything going in. I was just looking for new horror movies to watch. And the performances were good. I just, you know, wasn't super fascinated by this movie. It was okay, you know. If you're in the mood for that type of horror film, it's a decent watch. It's okay. I'm not gonna, you know, tell you have to watch it immediately, and I don't know if I'd watch it again. So just okay. Late Night with the Devil from 2023, rated R. It's kind of like a found footage horror. A live television broadcast in 1977 goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living room. This was a very interesting premise for a movie, so I always appreciate new ideas in horror movies, new ways to scare you type of thing, and kind of like the live TV show aspect of this was very interesting, and the performances were really good. There were actually some like kind of like historical things that I've watched videos on and podcasts about, so I knew some of like the things they were referencing, so that was a cool part of this movie. Like I said, the performances are really good and it's definitely creepy, so overall I would say that this is a good movie. Then I watched The Watchers from 2024, PG-13 supernatural horror. A young artist gets stranded in an extensive, immaculate forest in Western Ireland, where after finding shelter, she becomes trapped alongside 3 strangers stalked by mysterious creatures each night. I really enjoyed this movie. I could see this becoming a favorite movie of mine. The storyline was really interesting. The cinematography of this movie is gorgeous. The actors, everything was really good. I could definitely watch this again. Again, I feel like this was something new to kind of like a thriller, creepy movie. I haven't seen something like it before, and everyone did such a good job. Dakota Fanning is the main character in it, and I mean, she's good in everything, but the whole cast was really good, and I liked the movie as a whole. So, like I said, it had a lot of aspects that I really enjoyed, and I will be watching it again. Catt Lake from 2024, PG-13 mystery. When an 8-year-old girl disappears on Catt Lake, a series of past deaths and disappearance begin to link together, altering a broken family's history. This movie was such an interesting concept. Again, I love fresh ideas. Such an interesting concept. The acting was really good. Visually, it was a good movie. I really got into the storyline of this, and I can't say too much because I don't want to spoil the story for you, and that's another thing. Be careful if you look this movie up. There was some things, like some of the promotions and things that I've seen, that give away some of the plot twists in this movie, and you don't want that to happen. Like, you want to just watch this movie and like discover it on your own. I don't like when things are spoiled for people, so overall I really enjoyed this movie. I'd watch it again. It is one of those movies where you can only watch it a certain way the first time though, but it would be interesting to see it again knowing what you know. As Above, So Below from 2014, rated R. Let's see. It is kind of like found footage horror. When a team of explorers venture into the catacombs that lie beneath the streets of Paris, they uncover the dark secret that lies within the city of the dead. I really liked this movie. It's got like the creepy horror aspect with kind of like archaeological finds and Indiana Jones vibes, if you will, looking for certain things in the catacombs. And the Paris catacombs make it an even creepier setting. Like, that's a place that will never go. So scary to me. And so most of the movie is based in these catacombs, so that just, the whole element of fear is pretty strong in this movie. The way that this movie is filmed, chef's kiss. I can't. One of my biggest pet peeves in horror is when you can't see what's happening. And I was worried going into this movie that it was going to be dark the whole time. But the way that they filmed it, with like the found footage where everyone has the cameras, people had flashlights and headlamps in the catacombs. So even though it was dark and creepy, you could still, for the love of God, you could see the actors and what was happening and the creepiness that was occurring. So everyone needs to film their movies like this, because you could actually be creeped out because you knew it was happening. It wasn't just a black screen. Overall, very interesting movie, and I definitely enjoyed it. Woman of the Hour, rated R. It's like a true crime drama. Cheryl Bradshaw, a single woman looking for a suitor on a hit 1970s TV show, chooses charming bachelor Rodney, unaware that behind the man's gentle face he hides a hit deadly secret. So this movie is based on a true crime case of a serial killer that did go on a dating show in the 70s, which is crazy, but they took liberties, obviously. The main character is kind of someone they created. The character had been on that show with him, but they kind of created her backstory for this movie, at least from what I've read about it. This has a slower feel to it. It definitely focuses more on the fear behind what this man did, instead of straight out showing the brutal aspects of his crimes, which is nice, especially when you're talking about true crime cases and these were real people. There were some parts that were, like I said, a little slow for me, kind of a little boring with how they did jump around in time with some of the things, and you kind of have like the 70s show, the dating show, and then you kind of jump around to past things that this man had did, his victims, things like that. So it did jump around a little bit. The performances were really good in this. Anna Kendrick both starred and directed this movie, and she does a good job at both, I think. I think we'll definitely see her doing more directing in the future, and it was kind of cool. She recently said that she didn't feel right like earning money from this because this was a true crime case, you know, and there's a lot of blurred lines with earning money from real life tragedies, and she ended up donating everything that she made off of this movie, which I thought was really cool. So kind of another reason to give this movie a watch, if you will. But interesting case. I had never heard about this man and what he had done until this movie. Then we have Countdown from 2019, PG-13, a cyber thriller horror. When a nurse downloads an app that claims to predict the moment a person will die, it tells her she only has 3 days to live. When the clock ticking and a figure haunting her, she must find a way to save her life before time runs out. Interesting twist on modern curse, if you will. Definitely some cheesy bits, corny acting and writing in some of it, but it wasn't like a horrible idea for a film. I like the premise of it. I'm not a huge fan of how this one ends, though. Then I watched You're Next from 2011, rated R, slasher thriller. When the Davison family comes under attack during their wedding anniversary getaway, the gang of mysterious killers soon learns that one of the victims harbors a secret talent for fighting back. This movie was under my radar. Like, I had no idea about this film. I had no idea it came out in 2011, and it was kind of like a missed one because I did enjoy this film. There's a lot of mistakes that people make in this, like silly people, stupid choices that people make in this movie, except for like the main character. She's a badass. But interesting choices that other characters make in this. I will say that I've called some of the storyline in this, so you may find it predictable, you may not, it might just be me. But overall I thought that this was a good kind of slasher thriller movie, and I should have seen it sooner. Okay, I may get crap for this next one. American Psycho from 2000, rated R, psychological horror. A wealthy New York City investment banking executive, Patrick Bateman, hides his alternate life as a psychopathic ego from his coworkers and friends as they delve deeper into his violent fantasies. There's so many actors in this movie, so many good actors in this, and yet I hated this movie. I hated it. This is a movie that a lot of people had said, oh my gosh, I can't believe you haven't seen that. And I was like, okay, I'll finally watch it. It's streaming. I did not like this movie. I'm so sorry if you're a fan. I don't know. I just didn't get into it. I thought it was very weird. The ending, some people kind of like have their interpretation of what it meant. I was like looking up reviews after I watched it to get other people's opinions because I kind of had my idea, but then it differed from other people's. I don't know. I think it's based on a book. I will not be reading the book. So this movie will be a pass for me. I don't need to see it again. Then we go to Us from 2019, rated R, psychological horror. In order to get away from their busy lives, the Wilsons family take a vacation to Santa Cruz, California. At night, 4 strangers break into their childhood home. The family is shocked to find out the intruders look just like them. This is such a creepy movie. It's so creepy. There's actually this moment where like the stranger people are like outside and you can't see them because it's just the shadows, and I was literally like, no, oh, that stuff's so creepy to me, no, oh, I hate it. When I was texting my friend, I was like, this movie is so creepy, but it's good. And it is good. The performances are really fantastic. I love Lupita in this, and the whole family does a good job because I mean they're kind of playing like two opposite sides, like the crazy family, evil family, and like this normal family of themselves. But yeah, this movie was definitely a trip. I didn't really see some of it coming or like what the plot was going to be, but overall it creeped me out and the performances are good, so I'd say it was a good movie. Smile from 2022, rated R, psychological horror. After witnessing a bizarre, dramatic incident involving a patient, a psychiatrist becomes increasingly convinced she is being threatened by an uncanny entity. This was a really interesting story for me as well. I had never gotten on like the smile train that everyone was on when this movie first came out, but I think the performances were really good and it was a nice creepy idea for a movie. So yeah, overall I enjoyed it. I know the sequel just came out, but I'll probably see it at some point. Then we go to Time Cut from 2024, TV 14 slasher horror. High school student accidentally travels back into 2003 and decides to stop serial killer who murdered her sister. This movie is so similar to another movie I watched, Totally Killer. They're very similar in like the idea of like slashers and time travel, which is like becoming its own genre, which is kind of funny to me because it's a weird combination. But I think I liked this movie better. Totally Killer was more corny to me and like had some like cringy scenes in my opinion. This one I thought was really funny at points because it's 2003, so she went back to like school when I was in school and I was like, oh damn, I'm old. I don't think this movie was like as corny, so it's probably why I liked it a little bit better. The cast was good, storyline was good, and yeah, interesting movie. Then I go to The Rental from 2020, rated R, psychological horror. 2 couples rent a vacation home and what should be a celebratory weekend getaway. This was a fantastic thriller movie. Great cast, and just creepy vibes. You rent a cabin like out on the coast and it's kind of away and like an Airbnb, you know, whatever, and then like you get the idea that people are watching you and stuff like that, and that is just like such a creepy aspect to me. This is also one of those movies where as the viewer you're kind of like yelling at the characters when they make stupid decisions and like, don't do that, you freaking idiots, because this is gonna happen and all those things. Yeah. If you're looking for like a creepy thriller though, like, I'd recommend. And the last movie that I'm going to talk about today is Inside Out 2 from 2024, PG. It is a coming-of-age animation. A sequel that features Riley entering puberty and experiencing brand new and more complex emotions as a result. As Riley tries to adapt to her teenage years, her old emotions try to adapt to the possibility of being replaced. So the first movie, the first Inside Out, is one of my favorite Pixar movies. I love it so much. It's so cute. And I think that this was a good sequel. I think they did a good job with bringing in new emotions as the main character Riley grows up and she hits puberty and becomes a teenager. And so they're adding in these other emotions that happen when you grow up. And so I think it was a really good sequel, the way that they did it. This is another movie that part of this film did in fact make me cry. So, warning. But I think they did a good job and I did enjoy this movie. So those are the recent things that I've watched since the last video that I did, shows and movies. I hope you take some suggestions and you enjoy some of the ones that I liked. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.